How you feeling today, good brother?
I'm good. Fridays are always really good days for me. They tend to be slower. Fridays are also my gym days, so
Okay.
I get my workout in, I get my endorphins, so I'm
Yeah.
feeling good right after it.
What do you do for like exercise other than Fridays?
I got a whole routine. I don't know if we're ready for that, but I got a whole routine that has evolved from many years of being active.
Okay, dope. I like that. I like that a lot. I think about it often for myself. Like I like that I have a certain lifestyle.
Yeah.
Certain things are kind of on autopilot because it's just how I've become accustomed to moving. Whether it's like exercise or just like how I move, my routines.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But yeah, I dig that. So I want to kind of have conversation around like how people tell their own stories to themselves, how we tell it and how we hear it. You know what I mean? And then how we kind of read the world around us through that lens.
Yeah.
So like, when I was a toddler, my father nicknamed me Goodness, right? And by the time I was a teenager before I asked why.
Yeah.
I was like, that's just the name. But my father said that I was just such a good baby.
Yeah.
Right? And when I asked my mom, she was like, yeah, because your father was just always so enamored with how good of a baby you were.
Wow.
Right? So very, very early into my story, I believe I am good.
Okay.
Right? Like
You have brothers, sisters?
Yeah, four sisters, 2 brothers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I have this idea for myself that at the very base, I'm a good person.
Yeah.
And I know that it comes from that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that kind of tells other parts of the story or colors how I tell the rest of the story of who I am.
Yeah.
And it also gives me something to live up to. Because if that's true, I can't pervert that.
Yeah. The thing I really like about that I think is, I don't think I ever actually thought about it before, but I think is accurate. The image of yourself from when you're a child really does reverberate through the rest of your life.
Yes.
And I actually rarely talk about this, but when I was young, might have been like a little over 1, and I have very scant memories of this, but this is years of people telling me this story.
Yeah.
I was with my mom. I was in a walker, and I'm like walking around. My mom is doing something else.
Right.
She left the iron up. So I go to the ironing board as a baby. I pull the iron down, and I burn my face. I still have the scar.
Okay.
I burn my face. It's chaos.
Yeah.
I immediately I'm in the hospital.
Right.
I think I was in the hospital for maybe 2 weeks. I get transferred to another hospital, and the burns are bad. The surgeons are like, we're surprised he's not blind, all these things. And there was, and this is like the early 90s, care for burns are a lot different now than they were then. But there was a surgeon, and I actually think he was from the West Coast, who was sort of a leading practitioner in the field at that time.
Okay.
Who had heard, for some reason, about me. And he came and performed the surgery. And my mom, I come from a working class family, so folks don't have money.
Right.
This is beyond what anybody's insurance is covering.
Right.
And the hospital makes the decision to do my surgery for free. And so I get this state-of-the-art, this is like 1993. I get this state-of-the-art plastic surgery as a baby in 1993. And again, I don't remember any of this.
Right.
I have no actual memory. and maybe I do, and it's just trauma blocked, but I literally can't reach back.
Yeah.
But all I remember, even to this day, like I had my 30th birthday party 2 years ago, and it still came up. As a young person, being told you are exceptional, that God has you here for, like old ladies, the church, the grocery store, people would just come up to me like, oh my God, you're here for a reason. This is the Lord's baby. Like all, you know, from every single person. I used to go back to the hospital as I got older, and the nurses were just totally in awe of me. Even as a teenager, I used to get we used to go back and visit the nurses, and they used to just say like, you know, just what an amazing recovery, right? And so for me, I literally grew up with this belief that I'm here for a reason, right? Because for all intents and purposes, every story that I've heard about this, everybody thought that I either should have been blinded or dead. And I'm here today. And that has been just a very central part of my own framework of myself. That I'm here for a reason. And also like it really grounds my faith that like one, God is good. And you know, that's my framework.
Yeah, and the miraculous is achievable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like it might not be achievable by my hands,
absolutely,
and my mind alone, but it's absolutely achievable.
Absolutely. And so like even like I said, I'm gonna be 32 in August. When I celebrated my 30th birthday, you know, my family was in tears. Not just because he's turning 30 as a black man, but they were there, you know, and I guess for them to see like that very scary 6 months to a year that they experienced to now I can imagine how emotional that is. As an adult now, and seeing kids and nieces and nephews that I have, and like I can imagine what that feeling is like, to see a young child, a young baby on the verge of death. And then to see them fully grown and doing their thing at 30 is probably a powerful visual.
But that's the other thing, the fully grown and doing their thing part.
You know? And so again, like, it's almost like an outer body experience, because I don't remember it personally. But I try to honor that, right? Like, because clearly dozens, if not hundreds of people took actions, made sacrifices to, one, save my life, two, make my recovery possible, and three, just help me along the way.
And like your family got to see, and when I say, you know, the emphasis on the do your thing part, because your family got to see the fruition of he's special. You know what I mean? Like he's extraordinary. You know?
And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because again, like I was told that from a very young, and you've known me for a minute, so you kind of know what kind of person I am. I was just told from the time I was small that you're special, and so that dictated a lot of just like my own boldness and my arrogance as a young person, and just a firm, like there are stories from when I'm a kid, like things that I said or things that I did that my uncle talks about all the time, but like just this firm belief that I knew who I was and I knew where I was going. And that's because people kept telling me that, like, yo, you're special.
Right. That's amazing, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's so, you know, like we go through life with a sense of aloneness in certain aspects and a sense of togetherness in certain aspects. And we'll always spend more time with ourselves than with anyone. You know what I mean? Just because of how our psyche works. But to have little nuggets and breadcrumbs when it's just you and you, You know what I mean? And things to like not only to refer to, but to refer to the evidence of those things. You know what I mean? Like, what can I point to that proves this as a truth in my life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was talking to my boy earlier today. We went to lunch, and we were talking about how, like, you can do if you're someone who has done. Let me not generalize this. We were talking about how someone said to him, was telling him about something that he had done for them, something good that he didn't remember.
Yeah.
And I was saying to him, I've had the experience where people would come to me or mention something that I did that was so nice for them or to them, and I don't remember doing it at all.
Yeah.
And I get embarrassed because I don't remember it. Like, I realize that they're coming to this, they're raising this remembrance up because it's a point of connection between us, and I don't connect to it because I was just doing a good thing in the moment.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It just in the moment, I feel like I would rather be able to connect, and I'm embarrassed that I don't have that emotional. I can't meet them emotionally.
Yeah.
Where they are, like I can meet them mentally.
Yeah. Well, and this is just my personal experience. Like, I've had moments like that, and I think you meet that present moment, right? Like when someone says, "Hey, you did this thing for me," or "Remember this," and it made me feel this way. Like, I don't remember, but like, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad that happened, or I'm glad we shared that experience. And I think it also speaks to the beauty of life that, like, something that feels sort of rudimentary to you has a powerful impact on someone else. And the same is true in your life, right? Like, someone did something that they've forgotten about that's like run of the mill, that sticks to your brain. Yeah.
All right, that brings me to another point. I've been meaning to do this for a while. This is going to be like my accountability moment. So you know how like people have the shirts that have like Malcolm and Martin and Marcus and Medgar or like whatever those lists are. I've been meaning to make a shirt that has the names of like the men who have mentored me, from my father to like anybody who, for whatever reason, as a grown man, saw a little boy or a young man and chose to invest time and attention and resource into me as I was coming up. Like, I know I didn't have a relationship with those men to deserve that at the time. So for whatever reason.
Wait, explain that part to me.
Like, when somebody chooses to be your mentor. Yeah. When somebody older than you, wiser than you, more resourced than you, chooses to let you be in the shadow of that wisdom and resource and all that.
Got you. Nothing you did.
It's not because you
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's benevolence. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I've been meaning to make that shirt, but I'm curious about your relationships with mentors.
I mean, I've had so many mentors and father figures that have shaped my life. My relationship with my own father, I think, was strained, to put it generously. And he passed away when I was 17. So I live with that too, right? Like, there were opportunities to resolve, or at least to try to build that relationship. And particularly in my teen years, I'm just like, I'm doing my own thing. Like, I don't want to. And then he dies, right? And so that's like one of the things that I live with, right? Sort of not being able to resolve that. But when I was coming up, I just had so many mentors, and I don't think I called them mentors at the time, because sometimes mentors feels like sort of a very transactional term. Like, when I think of mentors, it's like, here's someone in your field who can help you in your field. And it was much more personal and deep than that. And for me, it was definitely my uncle, who, from when I was young, had a deep love for Newark. He was an athlete. He was what you would call a man's man. And so I learned a lot about what it meant to be a black man in America from him. And then I had my granddad who spent 35 years cleaning executive cars at Newark Airport, right? Like he came at a time where they barely let black people fly out of Newark Airport. And so from him, I learned this super sense of humility. Like he was a guy that went to work, took care of his family. Every Sunday, I remember he would wake me up. We would go down in the garage, wax the car, and we would be outside, and then we would pull up to the front. And my grandmother would come down and we would open the door. Like, you know, you hold the arm walking in. Like, he was that person, taught me how to tie a tie. And I'm actually wearing his ring.
Oh,
this was given to me so when I passed. And this was his father's ring.
That's super ill, man.
So from him, I learned what it meant to be a gentleman. And there were, I mean, I could go on. Like, there were so many others. There was Jerry Ryan, who is still very much in my life. And the story about how he even became involved in my family is very opaque. But he's a white man. He was a photographer for a long time, professional photographer. And he took photos of my family for generations. So if you go to his library, I mean, each person in my family probably has 200 photos from him. And he's 95, so he was born in 1930. And white man. And I remember him picking me up, and like we would go to museums. We would go to the Met. We would go to Museum of Natural History. He taught at Fordham. Like, and so a lot of my intellect and like my curiosity comes from him. And so man, like I feel like I was blessed with all these different types of men in my life. And so I actually have a very and we were talking about this earlier when we talk about like swag and personality. Like I have a very nuanced view of masculinity because of all the different types of men. Like I feel like I'm like an amalgamation of all the different types of men in my life. Like Jerry used to take me to Princeton, and like we used to go to all these different colleges. And he was just like, "You're gonna be at one of these places one day." And so like he steered my curiosity, and then I would come home, and then Monday my uncle would pick me up and say like, "We going on a jog in the morning," like, and I joined the cross country team, and then like on Sunday my granddad would be like, "All right, you know what we got to do." So like I had all these different influences in my life, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love how that all like tracks into the story of like your personal identity, you know what I mean, to yourself. Like, as a young, you get in all these contrasts or converse perspectives. Like as a little boy, you get this picture of manhood out of your uncle. You know what I mean? And like the idea that like you get like you're a little boy who's from early on told that you are meant for something special and great. And you have this image of humility and service as your grandfather. You know what I mean? And like these images are pillar images for you.
It is.
So it's like the way that it kind of steers the ship. You know what I mean? And how it like kind of turns the sails for you so that you can navigate this thing as who you are. And she's gonna hate me for telling the story, but my fiance, when we first started dating, she used to joke around and she used to be like, "You're spoiled." And my aunt
used to always jump in and say like, he's not spoiled.
Yeah.
He's loved.
Yeah.
And I think it was so funny, and she didn't mean anything
Right.
by it, but like, I think that's so funny because, not to say that black boys aren't loved,
Right.
but I think we raise black boys, at least in my generation and probably in yours, like a certain way, particularly if you like are from Newark or Irvington or East Orange. Like there's a generality with how, you know, we perceive boys to be raised, and that's like rough and blah blah blah. And my experience as a little boy in Newark was so different than that. And I think that throws a lot of people off. Like now it's like it's we have a whole we've interrogated that culture, and we're saying we're gonna raise the next generation of boys different. But in the 90s, like, you know, like it felt, in retrospect, like it felt different.
Yeah. I think about that often, like sorry for the downtown sound effects.
Yeah.
But like, I think about it often how I would say every generation, especially like from our generation. Sorry.
Yeah, it's gonna pass.
That's gonna kill me.
You right in the heart.
Yeah. I do these but first gratitude videos.
Yeah.
And sometimes like I realize that like I'm early morning riser, and I like to get up and get active, and like I'll be recording those videos and it hit a garbage truck, and I'm like, oh, I can't, like, it's always going to be the garbage truck at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like,
Yeah. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, so like I have to steer around that. Like, this is the ambulance or fire or police car is different, but yeah, it just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
So I think about how our generation, I would say, we were raised to be the men of our mother's generation's dreams.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we still have the masculinity, of course. We have the desire for servant leadership.
Yeah.
Like, we have the things that we saw of our fathers and grandfathers and uncles. We have those things.
Yeah.
But we also have the patience.
Yeah.
Which some of that also comes from our fathers and uncles and grandfathers too. But like the sensitivity, the emotionality,
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence, or the emotional curiosity even.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ability to see a woman as a partner.
Yeah.
It's like, it's super special. It's just a generation behind.
Oh yeah, and I think also, to your point, like the thing I always try to acknowledge is all the traits that I have, I got them from one of these people. You know what I mean? From someone who reared me.
Yep.
And it makes me very conscious that like I live in a time and a space where like I get to flourish in that.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, in generations past, you know, black men just had to kind of not even suppress, but like they weren't allowed to have that space because there was so much else going on. Like, you know, my grandfather came up here from Clarksville, Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Like they were escaping Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Like my uncle was a black man trying to make a way for himself in the 80s and 90s, which was a tough time to do that as a black man, right? And so I always acknowledge that they didn't always have the space. And like I've inherited a lot of fortune to be able to do that.
Yeah. How do you like, what's your relationship with ambition?
I'm pretty ambitious, always have been. I'm also like connected to that is like competitiveness. I would say from a lot of self-reflection on this that it has sometimes veered on the side of being unhealthy.
Yeah.
But a lot of just the raw ambition that I have and had resulted in where I am today.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Like I went hard and the results showed. But you get to a certain point in your life where you can't always go with the gas pedal all the way down.
Right, for sure, yeah. Yeah, it's like in our younger years,
Yeah.
We just have more appetite. We have appetite for things.
Yeah,
and curiosity on top of appetite.
Yeah. And ignorance, right? Like,
it's
I don't know. Like, I ran for city council in Newark at
22.
20.
Right? 20.
Yeah.
20.
The only reason I did that is because there was a lot I didn't know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If I knew the things, I probably wouldn't have done it.
I hear you. Yeah. But on the flip side, it's like then you never would have done it, and you
Exactly.
got the insight that you got from it. So there's also a beautiful component to the recipe wherein you have the energy to do it when you're dumb enough to do it.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean that's also the beauty of being young.
Yeah.
Like I mean part of my job is I work with a lot of young people, and like when I'm speaking to young people, I say go for it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be there's gonna be decades after. There's gonna be more than enough time for insecurities, for overthinking.
Yep.
When you're young,
Go.
just go.
Yeah, and then I think as you mature, and if you are someone who is wired as like a servant leader, the ambition it's like I think about like Jordan driving to the lane and dunking or laying it up. Yeah. Transitions to the fadeaway, to the turnaround fadeaway, right?
Yeah.
Because you need the buckets, you just don't need the risk.
100%. 100%.
And like as you mature as a servant leader and someone with ambition, you realize how to use your ambition for caretaking.
That's actually a really good analogy. The Jordan slam to the Jordan fadeaway. Like that's a really good one.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like the team needs these points.
Yeah.
You mean like whether it's my family or my community or like we need.
These
resources, we need this access, we need these opportunities. Somebody has to go out and score.
Yeah. And I think I know that I still have a lot of ambition, but to your point, it's channeled in a different way, and I think it has a lot less of the brashness that maybe it had when I was 21, 22, 23. Yeah.
All right, so let's on the flip side of that, what are some things that you've learned from the women in your life that you hold especially dear? Or some things you learned about yourself from the women in your life?
I mean, I'm still learning from the women in my life, to be honest. I'm trying to even think where to start. If I had to pull something from the thread, I would say so much of it is like emotional intelligence. The women in my life almost, through no fault of their own, like I was forced to learn how to reckon with my own emotions. Like I was forced to learn what like empathy and sympathy and care mean, and like communication. And like those are things that I'm still working on to this day, but those are things that like the progress that I have made is almost entirely because the women in my life challenged me. The also other thing, and I say this a lot and it's so true, the absolute best people I've ever worked for are women. 100%.
Yeah.
Women are, and they don't need me to say this, but women are incredible leaders.
Yeah.
And I lead an organization today, and so many of the principles that I apply are principles I learned from women who managed me and women that I watch lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I feel like there's like a list of priorities and interests of a leader. Like say take for a company, right? The leader of the company's priorities have to include, in no particular order, but have to include themselves.
Yeah.
The people that support them and that they lead.
Yeah.
The clients.
Yeah.
That they're servicing. The company itself as an entity.
Yeah.
And like, other stakeholders, whoever they may be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the difference between men and women's leadership can tend to be the prioritization of the people versus the clients and the company as an entity.
Yeah.
The me and you thing ranks higher with women.
Yeah. But I'm gonna even elevate that because those are important, but those feel like tactics to me. What a leader brings is a vision, the ability to convene, and the ability to negotiate.
Yeah.
And I've found, and selflessness, right? Like what I've learned 100% about leading an organization is that it's almost never about you.
Right.
It's always about bringing the best out of other people.
Yeah.
It's about convening people around a singular goal or mission.
Yeah.
And it's about knowing how to get what you want from the other side of the table. And I think men, there's an arrogance there, right? Like, this is my vision. This is how we should do it.
Yeah.
And women just have a unique ability to make their vision feel like yours, to bring confidence out of others, and to convene folks.
Yeah.
And also to negotiate, right? Like negotiation, the best negotiation is soft negotiation.
Yeah, I think it's the empathic nature.
Yeah.
Like in all of those areas, like the ability to see yourself in the other person and the other person in you allows you to do all those things superbly.
Yeah. Like, and it's an ego trip. Like I had this ego in a lot of my roles where I'm like, I'm trying to be the smartest person in the room. Like I know this thing. And that's not how you achieve success as a leader. You achieve success as a leader by not being the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
By making someone else feel and know that you got this.
Yeah.
I'm taking my direction from you. I trust your ability to do this.
Yep.
And you have to be willing to be selfless. You have to be willing to manage your own ego to bring the entire team together, right? Like, and that's why, and I'll end it here, but like, that's why I think women are so crucial to our politics, man. Like, we don't have enough women in Congress. I'm excited to see the city have a woman as mayor one day. Like, we're still waiting for a woman president. Like, they just have a framework and a zeitgeist that is so different than men, particularly men in power. And so, we need that other force.
Yeah. I think, didn't Mexico just elect their first woman president?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much opportunity for harmony and synergy if we would remove, the adamance about our privileges and priorities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because those are the divisive things. Like, whatever my privileges and priorities are my walls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I need to have in spite of whoever else.
Yep.
And what I need, like, yeah, the prioritization of it. Like, I need my wishes to be met.
Yeah.
As a priority. That's super. That's counterproductive to the success of the group, whether it's the company, whether it's the team, whether it's the relationship.
Yeah.
Like, that's an aspect that can't go unchecked.
Yeah, it's the old proverb. You wanna go fast, go alone.
Right.
If you wanna go far, go together.
Yeah.
And it takes a special leader to bring folks together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like it really it sounds basic.
Yeah.
But there are not a lot of leaders out here, bro. Like there are not a lot of people who can say, how do we bring 50 people together? How do we bring 100 people together around a singular goal? Because there's so much ego, there's so much divisiveness, right? Like even when you share a household with someone, right? Like it's like, how do we go together?
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, like I feel like for me, my fiance has made me a better leader, and the women in my life continue to challenge me to be better. And I the last thing I'll say on this is it's not just even a divide among gender identity. Like it's also a divide among like age, right? Like this, like this idea that if you're under 30, you have nothing of substance to say.
Right.
Or if you're from this marginalized group, you have nothing to say about anything except what affects that. And so like to your point about like breaking down barriers and that we go farther together, right? Like that's why our country is what it is now, because we're so fractured. It's like it's a zero-sum game. Like you have this, so like we can't interact because that's gonna take away something from me.
Right. So, I was at the park a little while ago, a couple weeks ago, and a friend of mine's son was there, and he's a toddler, or he's whatever, 5, 6, 5, something like that. And he's playing with some kids his age, and they're running around, and I'm observing them, and I'm bugging out because I'm like, it's Military Park. Military Park, historically, at least in our generations, hasn't been a park that was occupied by the community. Yeah. Like
I remember the old days, man, when like Military Park was, you ran through it.
So like, yeah. So like, it's super dope. I think that they have this childhood memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was watching them, and I'm watching them run around, and it stuck in my head for like when I'm doing my runs in the morning. Of like, run like a kid runs. Like, don't run like it's my workout.
Yeah.
Don't run like it's labor. Don't run like I have like it's transportation.
Yeah.
Kids don't run like it's transportation.
Nah.
You know what I mean?
Nah.
And you don't run like it's labor, even when it is labor.
Yeah.
Even when they're tired and out of breath, they don't run like this is laborious. You know what I mean? And that stuck with me in terms of like, I remember Alan Watts talked about how, the essence of life is play.
Yes.
It's like we don't work music, we play music.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that at an essential level, we are here to play. And if we approach life with play, like there is no area of life that can't include play. Like there's none. You can crack a joke at a funeral. You know what I mean? And if you're that friend, you better. Like that's why you're there.
That's funny.
Like you need to provide levity. You need a release. That's like everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe not everywhere all the time, but everywhere.
Right.
And I want to ask you like, and not necessarily toddlers or whatever, but like some of the things that you learn or have picked up from people younger than you.
That's it. But I want to go back to the running thing because I read a stat like many moons ago, and I'm probably misquoting, but it says something to the effect of like 98% of men never run at full speed after 30. Which is a very simple stat.
Yeah.
But is so telling.
Yes.
Like after you turn 30, most men will never run at full speed again. And then you ask like, why is that?
Right.
Is it because we choose not to? Is it because we don't have the venue? Is it because we don't have the space? When's the last time you ran full speed?
It was definitely north of 30. I don't remember though.
Yeah.
Probably just maxing out on the treadmill.
But to that point about like when you're a kid,
no, running in the street. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you just take off.
You just
just take off.
That is your pace.
You take off. However fast my body allows me to go, I'm gonna go.
Pace. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like running at full speed. There's 3 reasons to run at full speed. Like running from something.
Yeah.
Pursuing something. Sorry, 4 reasons. 4 reasons. Running from something, chasing something, competition.
Yeah.
Or just play.
Yeah.
Like I just want to feel my body running at full speed.
Yeah.
That's something that happens when you're 6. You want to feel that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then you just at some point you just stop doing it.
Yeah. It's like you're not competing. You're not running a race.
Yeah.
At 30. Hopefully you're not running from something.
Yeah.
That requires you to run at top speed. It's like, that's wild.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, I'm probably misquoting, but it was some outrageous number, like 90%, 95%. But to your point about, to your question about what have I learned from people younger than me, so, and this kind of goes into kind of what I do for a living. I'm the executive director of the Andrew Goodman Foundation, as you know. And Andrew Goodman was, for those who don't know, was a 20-year-old college student at Queens College in 1964. And he went down to Mississippi to register black voters. And he was killed along with James Chaney and Michael Schwerner. Their bodies were found 3 weeks later in a ditch. And they dug up the bodies and they found a whole bunch of other black bodies. So it made all this national news. Dr. King got involved. The president made remarks. Like, it was a huge deal. But, and what we do now at the Andrew Goodman Foundation is we just have this belief that young people make our democracy better, right? Because there was an innocence to what Andrew Goodman and so many other young people during Freedom Summer 1964. These weren't, here's the thing. The photos are gray and white. The photos are black, gray, and white. These weren't 40 or 50-year-olds who were like, hey, let's take this strategy. These were just college students who said like, this doesn't feel right. Like, let me go down. They had no idea, for the most part, what the implications of that would be long term. And so now, like, I travel to these different college campuses where we support students, and I get to talk to, consistently, I get to talk to 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And there is just this blind ambition that is intoxicating, right? Like, and I remember being 20, 21 and like, I'm gonna get out of this school and take over the world. And that propelled me to do a lot. And going to these campuses and talking to students, every time I talk to a student, like I get that same surge of energy that anything is possible. And the other thing I'll say is, one of the perks of this job is like I get to spend a lot of time with Freedom Summer 1964 alums. They were all 18, 19, 20 at the time. So many of them are between 78 and 83 now. And I talked to so many of them. And these people are in their 80s, their 9th decade of life. And they still say that Freedom Summer was one of, if not the most important thing they did in their life. And so like we tell young people like, yo, you can't, you can't do this thing, or like, you could do this other thing later.
Right,
No.
right.
No.
Right.
What you choose to believe in today.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, and
Du Bois said it's today that our best work can be done, not some distant future.
Right. Yeah, and that's when you're most likely to do it.
Yeah.
Like if you're ever gonna do it, you're most likely to do it then.
And that applies to any point. You could be 40 years old and say like, well, I might, I'm gonna take this leap when I'm 55.
Yeah.
Take the leap now.
Take it now. Yeah. Don't make 55-year-old plans.
Yeah. And I'm not a perfect adherent to that. Right? Because I get scared, I get nervous, I don't,
Yeah.
But like, again, seeing the blind ambition of young people and thinking about the legacy of those folks in the past and thinking about being in these rooms with people in their 8th, 9th, 10th decade of life talking about this is the best thing I ever did. Like I got to talk to one of Medgar Evers' close friends. Beautiful soul. If I'm not mistaken, Medgar Evers was in his late 20s, early 30s when he was assassinated. Dr. King was 27 when he started the Montgomery bus boycott. John Lewis was in his early 20s. I mean, when they, him, Diane Nash, when they were doing sit-ins and these were young people who just said, this doesn't feel, they didn't know they all didn't know the politics or like this rule, this law. All they knew is that this isn't working. And this is what I can do about it. And so that's like a philosophy I try. Like I run into a lot of situations now where people say, you can't do it this way. It's not really done this way. Or you can't be this type of leader. And I say, why not? Or I say, I'm gonna do it anyway because it feels right to me.
There's the idea of affecting any change or having the intent and applying any execution to affecting change is a wildly rare thing. Like wildly rare. And yet it has been done so many times in so many different ways. And we don't have a catalog of all the ways to succeed. You know what I mean? Like we have a idea of a list of principles, maybe best practices, maybe, but we can't speak for all the ways because there's far too many variables and factors that you can't account for. And a lot of the variables and factors have to do with the will, the perseverance, the depth that the person who is in the cockpit has.
And courage. I mean, we live, particularly like, I think in the past like 5 to 10 years, we live in this culture that says like, make sure you read Ray Diallo, make sure you read 48 Laws of Power, follow this person, like read this book, see how they try to replicate that. And the truth is, you can't. Like there's no person you can point to that you deem successful that you go to and they'll say, I repeated exactly what this person did. That's not how success works. Success is some weird amalgamation of consistency to excellence, randomness, and courage. If it doesn't feel uncomfortable, you're not doing shit.
Word. Because like, what is there worth affecting change? That doesn't require courage. And I remember Maya Angelou talked about courage. She said courage is the greatest of all of the attributes because it's the attribute that requires you to exhibit these other ones when it is most inconvenient.
100%.
You know what I mean? So like
100%.
The idea of loyalty, for example. It's a great idea, no matter what page of the book you're reading it on. But loyalty is only loyalty at its truest when
it's
there
tested.
is an incentive to be disloyal.
Yes.
Like there's something
100%.
you actually want
100%.
that costs disloyalty.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And it takes courage to like
100%.
be the person of the principle in spite of the circumstance
100%.
and environment.
And it's all these people that say, I would do it this way, I would do this, I would do that. Words are fine. But what happens when those things are actually tested?
Yeah.
Like Frederick Douglass said it, like, there are people out here who profess to want change but are afraid of stormy waters.
Right. Like you can't...
A good captain can't be in harbor.
Right.
Like these are hundreds, 1,000-year-old principles.
Yeah.
There's no, I'm gonna read this book and replicate what this person did.
Right.
It's who are you?
Yep.
What are your values?
Yeah.
What do you want to affect?
Yeah.
And are you willing to do that
Yeah.
when it gets uncomfortable?
Yeah. Like how much of yourself are you willing to become what's necessary?
Yeah.
For those principles, for those...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought about this. So, you know, when me and Viv broke up, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of circles back to the goodness story that I tell myself. I was incredibly fascinated and proud of how good we were to each other in that process. You know what I mean? And, you know, all relationships have ebb and flow, ups and downs, twists and turns. And we had a season of ebb, I would say, right? And then for whatever reason, at the turn of the year, like January 2024, we just had this string of like really great days that became a string of really great weeks that became a string of really great months, right? So like in 2024, the relationship was like in flow.
Yeah.
You know? And when we made the decision that like this is not gonna sustain, we have to go separate ways, there is such great pride that I feel for both of us in how we chose to show up in that moment.
Yeah.
Especially because there's still an awful lot of room for misunderstanding or miscommunication. You know what I mean? Or like saying something a little more spice on it than you intended just because, you know, at the time your back was hurting or whatever. Like all those little things, you know what I mean? But by and large, like the way we carried ourselves and each other in that moment, I think was so very good. You know? And it's the type of thing where the courage required to put yourself in a position of service when you feel like you're in a moment of loss is really, really trippy and peculiar, and at the same time really, really rewarding. Like it's like the best. You know what I mean? And I just really dig the opportunity that it presented to show up as our best selves. You know what I mean? On principle. In
a very difficult moment, right? Like that's everything we talked about, which is all the things you say. Do you actually show up that way when the moment, because breakups are hard. Like you start saying things you didn't mean, and you know, everybody's trying to assign fault. You know, your emotions are just enlarged, your sensitivity is heightened. And so an ability to approach that with grace and balance and empathy and listening and all those things, tough. Tough. And if you're able to do that, I think it says a lot about both of you as individuals.
I think it's I look at it as something that we were fortunate to experience,
Yeah.
and we're fortunate to be able to say we were those people in that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to look at that moment and be proud of, because like,
Yeah.
you know, life will give you more than enough opportunity to look back at a moment and be like, man, I wish I had shown up a little bit different.
Yep.
Or a lot different. But the opportunities that you get to look back and say, if I could do it again, I would do it exactly like that again.
Yeah.
Because like I see no downside to that.
Yeah.
It is not only rewarding, but it's incredibly encouraging, and it feeds optimism for the future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it gives me a chance to look at myself and whatever the future might be and be like, nah, that's a bad motherfucker right there.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna show up, or he has a good chance of showing up sterling in the moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like that's in his jacket now.
My leadership coach, we always talk about the analogy of the flagpole. And the wind is gonna do what it's gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Like one day the flag is over here, another day the flag is over here. The flagpole,
Right.
that's you.
Yeah.
That's your values. That's your personal philosophy. That's everything you stand for. So whether it's snowing, raining, the wind,
Right.
the flagpole stays put.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it sounds like you had a flagpole moment.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm gonna make sure that you call it that and call them that from now on. A flagpole. Yeah. Thank you, man. You gotta shut it down there. That's perfect.
Yeah. Don't thank me, thank my leadership coach.
True. Word. Shout out to the leadership coach.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming through though.
Absolutely. This was great, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I can't wait to do this again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.